All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. Time to do the Tao now. Change your thoughts, change your life, living the wisdom of the Tao. And we can do it, ladies and gentlemen. We can make an impact in a positive way on our lives by trying to apply great wisdom into our lives through practical ideas. And it's a little later today than normal, so I figure we'll do this video here today on some of the practical ways we can use some of these verses of the Tao Te Ching in our lives. And then maybe on Thursday, we'll do the Tao again this week, and we'll do our normal reading and normal type of video that we do here on this series, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. But for today, we'll keep it simple, and I want to go back all the way to the first verse of the Tao Te Ching, and we'll start there because it is important. So I'll read through the verse, and then I'll give us the practical way, the do the Tao now, and how we can apply this into our lives. And so starting with the first verse, ladies and gentlemen, the Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. And that is the first stanza of that verse. And to me, that means if you can name it, if you can label it, if you can separate it or categorize it, then it is not the true way. It is not the true essence, the true force, the true eternal Tao. That which underlies all things and the working of all things, the great way. And so the second stanza here is the Tao is both named and nameless. So once again, it's not separate. It is both. It is all. As nameless, it is the origin of all things. As named, it is the mother of 10,000 things. And so this is talking about the separation of this underlying essence of all physical things in the world. And so the Tao is both named and nameless. As nameless, it is this essence, the origin of all things. As named, it is the mother, and I think what Lao-tzu means there by the mother, or whoever translated this version of the Tao. As the mother, I think what it means is it gives birth to the 10,000 things. Or, it brings into existence all of the things that we label and put names on that we think are separate. So the final stanza here, ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one sees only the manifestations. So those physical things, once again, as named, it's the mother of the 10,000 things. So it's going into this separation or this idea of the great distinction between that which is nameless and universal and eternal, and that which is named and categorized and is temporary. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one sees only the manifestations. And the mystery itself is the doorway to all understanding. Discovering this mystery. And so Wayne Dyer puts this in a practical way that we can try to apply this wisdom into our life by saying, do the Tao now. At some point today, notice an instance of annoyance or irritation that you have with another person or situation. Once again, the 10,000 things, people, situations, whatever we name, label, and categorize that is here in the physical world. Decide to do the Tao, or in another translation, practice the way. And that's important to remember when talking about doing the Tao. It's practicing a new way of going through life. And in that moment, by turning inward with curiosity about where you are on the continuum between desire and allowing. So once again, when we're in an instance of annoyance or irritation with another person or situation, decide, turning inward with this curiosity about desire and allowing and where we are on that scale, permit the paradox of wanting the irritant to vanish and allowing it to be what it is. So you can be both at the same time, ladies and gentlemen, and instead of or. So you can permit this irritant while allowing it to be what it is. And it almost then, in a paradoxical way or a confusing way of opposites, it vanishes. Once you allow those things that you find as irritants, and it's kind of a detachment practice. And so you allow it to be what it is. Look inward, Wayne Dyer continues, for it in your thoughts, and allow yourself to feel it wherever it is and however it moves in your body, which is an interesting thing in its own. Turn all of your attention to becoming open-minded. Allow permissiveness to befriend the mystery within yourself. Notice how the feeling manifests itself. Perhaps doing loop-de-doops in your stomach or in your mind, giving you a rigidness to your body, making your heart pound or tightening your throat, wherever it is. Allow it as an enigmatic messenger within you and give it non-judgmental attention. This is this feeling of irritation that he's getting at, I believe. And allow it to be monitored compassionately by you. So you are not your thoughts, though our thoughts can create our lives. So we want to begin monitoring compassionately our thoughts. Wayne says, accept whatever comes. Encounter the mystery within without labeling, explaining, or defending. It's a subtle distinction at first, which you must take personal responsibility for identifying. You alone can prepare the ground of your being for the experience of living the mystery, living the way, practicing the way in the Tao. And so that was the Do the Tao now for the first verse of the Tao Te Ching. Now for the second verse, ladies and gentlemen, which is about what Wayne Dyer says, the paradoxical unity. The second verse of the Tao Te Ching. Under heaven, all can see beauty as beauty, only because there is ugliness. All can know good as good, only because there is evil. Being and non-being produce each other. The difficult is born in the easy. Long is defined by short, the high by the low. Before and after go along with each other. So the sage lives openly with apparent duality and paradoxical unity. I want to stop there for a second and make a point about that. This paradoxical unity is the understanding that these dualities that are being described here, because, beauty and ugliness, or can only know good because there's evil, or non-being and being produce each other. The difficult is born in the easy, the high and the low. Long is defined by short. And so these apparent dualities, or two things that are opposing opposites, are paradoxically or confusingly, interestingly, united and dependent upon each other as one. And so you can't have these two things without having both of these things. The sage can act without effort and teach without words. The verse continues, nurturing things without possessing them. He works, but not for rewards. He competes, but not for results. When the work is done, it is forgotten. And that is why it lasts forever, ladies and gentlemen. Living the paradoxical unity. And so, some of the practical ways we can begin to try to apply this wisdom into our life from the second verse of the Tao Te Ching is live an unhurried life. So, you don't have to always be rushing around, but also live a unified life. So seeing the unity and beginning to recognize the unity in all of the things that we so often see as separates and duality, opposites. Accomplish much by trying less, which seems counterintuitive, ladies and gentlemen, but believe me, sometimes, here's a great example. Sometimes you're trying to open something or, something simple like that. And sometimes the more struggle we put into it, the harder it gets. But it's like when you relax and just try with ease, sometimes these kind of things, whatever it is, become much more successful with the easy way. And so do the Tao now. Do the Tao today, Wayne Dyer says, by noticing an opportunity to defend or explain yourself and choose not to. Instead, turn within and sense the texture of misunderstanding. So in both of these already, the first two verses and his idea, Wayne's idea of how we can apply this practically into our life. And once again, I'm reading from Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao by Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. He's my ultimate mentor so far in my life. Too bad I never got to meet him or discover him while he was still alive, but his content remains to change the lives of many. And so this theme of noticing what is going on within ourselves, and not only in our minds, but in our bodies, when our emotions, and there is plenty of science that shows that our emotions are directly correlated to the functions of our body. And so he says, turn within after this opportunity of noticing that you wanted to defend or explain yourself and choosing not to, and sense this texture of misunderstanding, feeling it all the way through your physical system. And then just be with what it is, back to this allowing. Instead of opting to ease it by traversing the outer world path of explaining and defending. Don't get caught up in the apparent duality, the apparent opposites of being right or wrong. Congratulate yourself for making a choice to be in unity, paradoxical unity, a oneness where all of the spectrum simply is. It just simply is. And, right or wrong are just ends of the same spectrum. And so you begin to allow and just flow with it. Silently, Wayne continues, appreciate the opportunity along with your willingness to practice your sageness. I love that he uses the sage as the example. But so he keeps getting at this idea of becoming aware, once again, the awareness, the wisdom, and then beginning the practice of noticing these kind of things as we go through our life. So here now, the third verse of the Tao Te Ching. Wayne Dyer describes it as living contentment. Putting a value on status will create contentiousness. If you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal. By not displaying what is desirable, you will cause the people's hearts to remain undisturbed. The sage governs by emptying minds and hearts, by weakening ambitions and strengthening bones. Practice not doing. When action is pure and selfless, everything settles into its own perfect place. Wow, that one's a powerful one there. And so the ideas of how we can apply this into our life is remind ourselves daily that there is no way to happiness. And I say this at the end of all of my videos, at least this year so far. Remind yourself daily that there is no way to happiness. Rather, happiness is the way. So it's like we may have a long list of goals that this is what Wayne begins describing that as. We may have a long list of goals that we believe will provide us with contentment or happiness when they're achieved. Yet if you examine your state of happiness in this moment, you'll know that the fulfillment of some previous ambitions didn't create an enduring sense of joy. And so once we realize that, when we're always striving to get to the happiness and we're not making it the way, then when we get there, we don't know how to be in it, and we're just past it and on to the next thing that we're striving for. And so to truly be able to bring happiness and joy and contentment into our life, we need to begin to practice it as an action, as an activity that we bring to life rather than expecting to get from life. So remember that happiness, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And then another, way that we can apply this wisdom practically into our life is trust the perfection of the eternal Tao, or of the great way, or of the source, or of God, or universe, or grand organizing design, God, or great universal intelligence, whatever you want to call it. Great spirit is one that I also like. But this force, it's like trust the perfection of the universe, for it is the ultimate source of the 10,000 things. The 10,000 things, once again, being all the things that we put names and labels on, that we begin to separate into categories and think it's not all unified by this paradoxical unity in duality. I'm so glad I chose to do this in this format, because it's really bringing some of these ideas together in a short form rather than such a long form. So if you're getting value, ladies and gentlemen, consider subscribing, because this is what we love to do here. And so the do the Tao now for this third verse of the Tao Te Ching is watch for an opportunity today to notice that you're planning on buying something, and choose to do the Tao and listen for guidance. Be grateful that you have the choice to make the purchase. Then practice listening to yourself. Once again, the practicing. And it's going inward. You're listening to yourself. You're observing. You're feeling. You're honoring. You're allowing. You're being with these feelings and these things that you're observing that are going on within yourself. And you're beginning to make a change already. And so this process will make great change in your life if you continue to practice. And so practice listening to yourself and not doing. Through your feelings, the Tao will reveal the way. The way will reveal the way for you in that moment. And so it's almost saying, like, take a pause, practice not doing, and then feel and allow the Tao, or the way, to show you the way. So then you think and you pause and you meditate or contemplate on it, and then you go forward. Let's continue here. Trust it. You might be guided, Wayne continues, to buy the item and savor it with gratitude. Donate it, procure one for you and one for someone else, or give the money to charity instead of getting the item in the first place, or maybe even refrain from obtaining it altogether. But it's in this practice doing the Tao in everyday situations, and you'll know a new sense of contentment in a much deeper way. As this verse says, when action is pure and selfless, everything settles into its own perfect place. Now, that's my definition of contentment, Wayne Dyer says, and I totally agree. And don't you agree, ladies and gentlemen? Because when we can get to where our actions are pure and selfless, everything settles into its own perfect place. And so, boom, I think we'll leave that there, ladies and gentlemen. Just a nice short little jump into practicality of applying the wisdom of the Tao into our life. How to practically apply great wisdom in our lives. And so, yeah, that's 3 verses there. Maybe we'll do this in the future, do the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and maybe even catch up with where we are going to be going into on Thursday. And I'm only doing it because I worked late today, and, it's already 4:18 here where I am. And so, and I kind of, wanted to do a couple this week for you. So hopefully you might like that. On Thursday, we'll be going into the 43rd verse of the Tao Te Ching, which Wayne Dyer describes as living softly. That sounds nice, ladies and gentlemen. And he describes on the first line of that is the Tao Te Ching is full of parallels to nature. And in fact, the pure essence of the teachings seem to be to help us become way Tao inspired sages, this great way inspired sages through oneness with the environment. And I'll add through our awareness from what those first three verses of the Tao Te Ching have to teach us and have to offer us in our own way through practice and through observation and allowing. And so remember, ladies and gentlemen, seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment, through a greater awareness, a greater understanding of our own reality that we currently exist in, and continue to seek to discover the hidden wisdom of the ages, ladies and gentlemen, which becomes less hidden and less hidden every day. Remember that you have an unlimited source of knowledge at your fingertips. And so it just comes down to wanting, to continue to learn and discover and how we can better our lives. And also continue, ladies and gentlemen, like I just said in our reading today, continue to make happiness the way. Because when we can begin to make happiness the way, what we bring to life, what we've so long been striving for, doesn't disappear, but it becomes less important. I like to say irrelevant, because if we were trying to get there to get the contentment and the happiness, but when we are able to bring that into our life now and make it the process, then we're already where we want it to be. And then the whole journey of getting there or somewhere new is wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much for being here. I love and appreciate everybody who spends time with me and Dr. Wayne Dyer and Lao-tzu and all the wonderful authors and poets in the wisdom of the ages, which we do on Wednesdays here on this channel. And I'll be back tomorrow with Wisdom of the Ages. So once again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And I hope this has an impact on people. And also smash the like button to get this up there in the algorithm. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. But just one thing, if we could do, is try to make happiness the activity that we bring to life. All right. I'll see you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, stay frosty. No, I like to say stay frosty just because it's a funny, silly saying, but really stay in a state of observation and allowing, and begin to recognize how we can make a change in our own life through these kind of practices. All right. Love you, ladies and gentlemen. No, no, no.